and welcome to the inaugural episode of Watching Worst Films. My name is Jericho.
And my name is Kyle.
So, this is the podcast where we will be watching every Razzie Worst Picture winner. Do you want to explain where the idea for this came from?
Yeah, so initially it was inspired by you going through all the best pictures from all the Oscar winners, and
which was difficult. I'll tell you, that wasn't pleasant. Watching Driving Miss Daisy and 3-hour musicals.
And I actually wanted to go and explore both the winners and the concept of Razzies themselves.
So yeah, that's what we're doing here, is we're going to be watching all the Razzie Worst Picture winners and discussing the Razzies as a whole. I know a lot of people have been criticising them lately, but I kind of see them a bit like the Oscars, of like it's impossible to make any objective summary of what's the best, what's the worst.
Absolutely.
And they, as an institution, they certainly have lots of tendencies and sort of biases that we maybe don't agree with, but it's an interesting jumping off point to discuss. So I hope you will join us for the do we even know how many there are? 45?
Yeah.
I think 45 man looking something up on the internet. And
I'm thinking of the first one's
42. So I hope you'll join us for the next 42 weeks, in which we will be watching all of the Razzie winners, and we're also going to have a few specials along the way with other key parts of Razzie history.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Okay, kicking things off with the most recent Razzie winner, which the ceremony was 2022 for the year of 2021. It was Diana the Musical. So where do we start?
Well, where do we start? So what is your background with this film?
Nothing.
Absolutely not. I'm the exact same. I barely even knew existed. There was, the deluge of Diana media that came out in the past year and a half.
Yeah, it came out the same year as Spencer, didn't it?
So it just went under my radar, and I didn't have a clue about it. And especially considering the sort of lack of films, obviously, through pandemic.
The most thought I devoted to it was as a sort of other side of the coin to Hamilton, because that was the last year that Hamilton went on Disney Plus, I think, and Hamilton maybe swept, Hamilton won a bunch of Golden Globes. I remember thinking, I was like, this isn't really a film, this is just a recording of a play.
Absolutely, yeah. It was a Tony winner as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. You've already won all these. It's just like if you put a camera in front of someone doing A Streetcar Named Desire, is this a film if you just point the camera at something good happening that's already received plenty of awards for things good happening? Anyway, so
yeah, I'm going in completely blind, to be honest with you. Didn't even know about it, so I had nothing to base it off. I didn't know when I first heard about it, I actually thought it was a genuine musical,
What do you mean it's not a genuine musical? It had songs?
I didn't expect it to be, just a filmed performance, a rehearsal almost. So, completely new to me, completely blind. It was just, let's just go for it.
Okay, first things first. We watched this on Netflix.
Yes.
If you're wanting to watch along, this is an easy one. It's on Netflix.
It is.
And it comes up with a Netflix logo. This is a Netflix production, which they've got a checkered past. I know their main goal for ages, or not their main goal. I know they were really driven about winning an Oscar, and that was the thing this year with Coda winning, was Apple Studios kind of beat them at their first attempt. So Netflix has now won a Razzie before winning
an Oscar. This is Netflix's first Razzie, yeah. Probably their last. They won't be around for any longer after this.
That's what I wonder. Did Netflix didn't get on this thinking this is so bad it's good, did they? They didn't think this would be an ironic kissing booth, or they didn't get on this as a meme, did they? They were like, hey, we've unearthed the new Hamilton.
Well, I don't even know how involved Netflix even were. I know the production comes up straight away. It feels more like distribution to me. It's free material, to be honest. You could tell obviously that this was probably a pandemic production, so the cast, everything was there, and it was a trial run essentially. So they probably didn't invest a penny into it, and in their opinion had nothing to lose from it. It's just another thing to put on the service that can just sit there forever.
Yeah, I guess Netflix are very inscrutable. When I feel like the future episodes of the podcast will involve box office bombs and like incredible acts of hubris where people have spent millions of dollars and then lost them. It's kind of impossible to know A, how much cost would have gone towards filming a musical which was already supposed to take place, and then B, the people that watched it and how much that translated to money for Netflix.
Absolutely.
But I realize we haven't really summarized anything about the show. So, Diana the Musical, for those of you who aren't aware, is a musical following the life of the People's Princess, Diana Spencer, the Princess of Wales. I want to give her the full Game of Thrones introduction, but I hate the royals so much I don't know.
Yeah, it's ignorance on my part as well. Like I know what I know and nothing more. And watching this doesn't inform me anymore on anything about Diana, to be honest. But yeah, Diana Spencer, the People's Princess, obviously a bit of a tragedy. And what better way to portray that than through the art of a musical? The most tasteful way you can. So yeah, basically right off the bat.
Yeah, I think Spencer had that little thing at the start where it said something like a true tragedy based on a real life fairy tale. And this is not doing something dissimilar.
No.
Of it explicitly says fairy tale in one of the opening songs,
yeah,
I think.
does.
And they're very much like this tragic woman's life. Da, 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 da. There's a little bit of girl bossification, which brings me into the opening shot. She looks like Hillary Clinton.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
let's address this straight up.
You got to address the in the room because from the very, very first shot, the hair, just everything, even the actress herself, bears more than a passing resemblance to Hillary, and they must have known that a little bit. Like, but again, we'll get there, of course. But these writers and creators of this production feel like they don't know anything about the life of Diana.
Well, exactly. That's where we probably should have done more research, but it seems like it's written by Americans for an American audience. It's kind of coasting. It's a musical version of, all those like Hallmark movies that were made about like Harry and Meghan and Kate and William. It seems very close to one of those.
Mm-hmm. And for the record as well, I haven't seen Spencer, so any comparisons to that you're gonna have to pull out there because
Spencer is good. It's really good. I really like Spencer. It was one of my favorite films of the last year, and Johnny Greenwood does the score. So it's a Diana movie with good music, which this very much isn't, because the music was dreadful.
And the music is done by Bon Jovi's keyboardist, I believe. Not John Bon Jovi himself, his keyboardist, who has a history of doing musicals. And I think you mentioned before to me that he did Memphis, or he was involved in that.
Yeah, it's either him or the other guy, but the creative team behind this, it's not as if that's what we thought first watching it, where we were like, is this like an amateur production?
Yeah.
But no, the people who made this have a track record, a successful track record of musical production, and really should know better, because this is it's not good. The songs, they kind of have that pop rock musical instrumentation, don't they?
I mean, I've got a lot of notes on here, but especially the songs, and so I managed to keep a track of the first 5 songs, and then after that, I just have question marks and notes because the first song was called "Underestimated," and it's a Diana solo piece, and like Clinton comparisons aside, it's not the worst. I'm not the biggest fan of musicals or musical theatre, but it could fit into something like "We Will Rock You" or anything along those lines. And lyrically as well, it wasn't the worst. It kind of tried to sum up what Diana, or at least the image of Diana, was.
A plucky underdog who came out of nowhere to marry the world's most eligible bachelor.
And I have the first few songs, the second song and the third song, "The Worst Job in the World" and stuff like that. were at least semi-memorable. I believe the best pieces of music were at the start.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm very much similar to you in that I wouldn't say I dislike them, but I don't really know much about musicals, just not a part of my life. Don't really seek them out. So the musicals I've been exposed to are the really popular ones or the really bad ones.
Yeah.
And so for me, this kind of just, it wasn't anything remarkable one way or the other.
Oh, no,
it's just that all of the songs were kind of samey and a bit forgettable.
Yes.
None of them were really good, but also none of them were really bad. And so is this where we pull it back to the Razzies? Because this was a bit of a surprise. Beyond, like, the conceit of making a musical about Diana and doing that as a bunch of Americans, it feels like that was the main Razzie-worthy thing about it. Whereas the execution wasn't laughably bad.
Yeah, I mean, it all falls apart in the concept. To try and make a musical based on Diana, obviously it's distasteful. There's no way to do it in any way. You could go much further controversial than this place took. You could play it safer as well. You could have done it in much different ways. But either way, it's a bad idea. And there's no real escape in that. And it's not something that will ever really be suited to a musical. Because, well, obviously as we go through it, the plot that's pulling all these songs along is very thin. It's tabloid, it's nothing really, and that's not why you would go to see a musical, in my opinion. The worst musical I've ever seen was something called Taboo, which was the Boy George musical.
Okay.
And it was depressing. It was uncomfortable and it was depressing, and I actually think it got cancelled really early into its run, which I compared to something like We Will Rock You, which has nothing really to do with Queen. It's a post-apocalyptic story with, effects and stage design.
Yeah, it's that kind of, it's the prototype for the jukebox musical, isn't it? With like the Proclaimers and Mamma Mia,
Absolutely,
where it's like,
yeah.
we'll take all these songs and we'll kind of construct a narrative that they work around, but it's not as if it's tied to the band overtly.
And that's much more effective way to do it. Obviously you can't do that because Diana doesn't have such a rich musical catalogue to work from.
If you were to tie Diana to an existing artist, who would you?
Well, I have it in massive quote here.
Yeah.
And it says, "Where is Michael Jackson?" Because when the first musical thing that I thought of was Dirty Diana. And through my whole time I was like, when's Michael Jackson going to appear? When are we going to get to it? So
Okay, I can see that.
So I was expecting that with a more British and imperial royal themes for the other side of it.
What's your opening number for your Michael Jackson Diana?
That isn't Dirty Diana.
It isn't Dirty Diana. Okay.
Because I believe that song's actually for her. I could be wrong.
I think you might be right.
I could have just made that
so
up.
many of them work. Beat It, when she has the divorce, the dress. That's it.
You could have. The
man in the mirror when she smashes the mirror.
Blood on the dance floor for your finale. Ghosts.
Thriller.
So that was always in my head because I was also expecting more pop music as well incorporated into it. I didn't expect.
That's expensive. We don't have the rights to that.
But it's such a low budget. But that's kind of just off the bat. That's what I was expecting. Yeah, by song 2, that's out the window. That doesn't exist, and I'm prepared now. I'm ready for what's going to come. Essentially,
is the song 2 the paparazzi one?
No, that is song 4.
Okay, I've just tuned out.
So this is also my stupid mistake because for song 2 I've wrote down a little acronym for it, but I can't remember what it stands for. So that shows how forgetful it is. But I believe it goes into The Worst Job in the World.
Oh.
Where they're all singing about how bad an idea it is to be
royal.
Princess, royal. And it's our introduction as well to Charles. And I'm not sure if you noticed this, but as a massive Red Dwarf fan, all I could see was Rimmer. The haircut, the everything. I mean, perhaps it looks like Charles and stuff, but like right away I was like, okay, like I've got Clinton, I've got Rimmer. I've got 2 songs. Song 3 was after they're courting. He takes her to see an opera, I believe, or a performance.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. That's the.
So this was. I don't want to say highlight, but that song I believe is called "This Is How Your People Dance."
Yeah.
And she's trying to, and you called it, she's trying to show her side and how she can rock.
Yeah.
And shred a guitar, or shred a cello, I think it is she does. And you called that Charles is going to pop and lock. And
Charles does indeed pop and lock. Yeah, that's... I flagged that up in my notes as well. It's that sort of orchestral classical music number that switches into sort of pop rock with that high class, low class juxtaposition. And they reflect that in the staging of it, in that all very buttoned up and proper, and then neon lights come up and like flashing lights, and it just changes completely. And that was when my observation was no Razzie winner should have something this good, because like, this is a good idea, well executed. In my experience of other Razzie winners, they're kind of just complete car crashes from top to bottom.
I don't have probably as many positives as you have down, but my earliest one already right off the bat was lighting. And it was probably that scene as well. And the next song, which is the paparazzi one, which I was like, oh, this is very well lit. I like how it's looking, and to be honest,
it looks good. There isn't a Razzie for worst cinematography, but this one certainly shouldn't have been nominated if there was, because it's difficult. I feel when you're recording a stage show, I don't know how much credit to give to...
I mean, there was a few shots later on that I noticed and stuff, but it's just stationary and flat for the majority of it.
Yeah, the framing and the composition's good. There's lots of nice little reveals where they'll have close-ups that will sort of obstruct something that will then become clear. This won worst director at the Razzies, and I don't really know. Like, it can't be awarded for the person who directed the filming of this show, because it was filmed really well. If you're a Razzie winning director, presumably you have to be like, I don't know, out of focus or just the worst possible camera angles for each thing. But I think it was a very good filming of a not very good play. And so are you then giving I'm assuming the director of the film wasn't the director of the stage show.
I was just the way to ask that. We should have maybe done the research on that.
You're right. It does look really good. I wouldn't blame the director for any of the bad creative choices of the show. I don't know how much credit to give them for things like the lighting, when it's a nice sort of clean, flashy looking production.
And there was nice contrasts as well, like
lots of nice contrasts.
And again, they were using the lighting for tonal shifts as well, which I wouldn't expect from a Razzie.
Way too much artistry. There was some bisexual lighting, which I pointed out to you, which ties back to Spencer. Spencer has the scene with Sally Hawkins, I think, where they have some revelation that, Diana's dresser is gay and has lusted after her or fancied her for all these years. It's like, are they reinventing Diana as a bisexual icon? Is that what they're trying to... that's the through line with both of these. And the other similarity is Timothy Spall is in Spencer.
All right.
Playing, I think, the guy who looks like Timothy Spall in this.
What guy was that again? Sorry.
He's the guy who helps her with the dress. He's the sort of like rotund guy.
Oh yeah, her aide of some sort.
Yeah.
The one again, my Diana history is not great, that I'm sure got in trouble for releasing a book or selling memorabilia or something. I'm not sure, but something in the early 2000s. I'm convinced of it. He was also the guy who played the cello as well, the star.
He was, yeah. I wasn't too good. Obviously, it's not a very big cast, so there's lots of doubling up. Should we address the you called the Hillary Clinton thing the elephant in the room earlier. The elephant that isn't in the room.
Oh yeah.
Harry and William.
Well, that wasn't even my two. I mean, mine's are Philip and Andrew. So.
Yeah. Prince Philip does not appear in this film.
For all intents and purposes, he's dead.
He's dead. Yeah, the Queen has a big song about obligation and about being an officer's wife. And it plays interestingly now because Philip is dead, but obviously at the time she was singing it Your husband's alive.
Yes. And, you know, I don't know how much he would add to like the narrative or anything, but still, it stands out. You could have had a phone call or something.
Yeah, he's purely past tense.
Yeah,
they're just kind of like,
nothing
well, when
about
I
him
married
being
your
alive,
father, he was consorting with his friends as well.
And there's so many times Charles talks about, oh, mummy, and oh, mummy. I would expect something about on the phone, you know, if you can't have another cast member get in the makeup and be a skeleton, then you could have him phone and say, oh, daddy, I'm not sure about this woman and stuff.
We'll get onto it a bit later of how we would improve this film, but I think that's one way is you hire someone to play the Grim Reaper and to escort Diana off stage at the end, and then that same person plays Philip. They put the scythe down and they're Prince Philip.
But to loop it back a little bit, I've got the track 4 is the Paparazzi song. So the first line, I believe, of the song is Lady Die, and with the emphasis on die, which made me snigger a little bit. That was called Snap Click Snap, I believe, the song.
Wow, you're good on the titles.
And they were all dressed like Dick Tracy. And that's all my notes.
That's it. My only note for that is they have the line, better than a Guinness, better than a wank. Which is this one of the differences? This is one of the Americanisms of Americans maybe just don't get how to use wank, because it was probably going to become a recurring feature of me referencing the time I lived in Canada. There was a basketball show I was watching on TV once, like middle of the day. It was when I was a student, and they had a feature called Wanker of the Week.
All right.
It was so bizarre. It was just like regular highlights of the NBA, and they're like, and now it's Wanker of the Week. Do they know what that means?
Yeah.
Because imagine Match of the Day if they were like, okay, and up next are
So
our
did they? What were they trying to get across?
It was just an idiot. It was
okay.
When someone like missing an open goal would get you labelled Wanker of the Week.
Okay.
And that was a bit like this, where I can't even remember better than a Guinness, better than a wank. There was another rhyme in there somewhere.
Well, I mean,
Hank.
But yeah, and this is so like, I'll talk a little bit more. I mean, as you're saying, at this point the music's becoming more and more generic. I'm already running out of steam. This is the last song I actually have notes for, because the next song is, I've got it written down as I Will, but most of the lyrics were I Will, and it reminded me of The Room, with the I Will, you know, the sex scene.
Oh yeah.
And it's just I Will.
You are. Is that? Oh no.
I will.
Oh, I was thinking like you are my rose, you are my rose, you are my
it's
rose.
It's just I Will times 62, and I was like, oh, okay, now, and this is where I'm starting to write down things about the rhyming's getting very poor, and you know, even when we were ad-libbing things while watching it really becomes that, like, because they repeat things. Friends and Ends is used in 2 different songs.
Yeah.
Obviously with like homosexual connotations as well for some reason, but it's very, very lazy.
I was kind of hoping they would get into like a YMCA or like the homoeroticism of No Dames from Hail Caesar. You know,
yeah, absolutely.
Because they're speaking about like Prince Philip being like a sailor or something, then he had his fun with the boys, and I was okay. I turned the other way.
That's it. It was you know, your friends because duty or honor never ends, or whatever.
What a man does at sea stays at sea.
Yeah. So like this is okay. So by song 5, and we are relatively early into this as well. This was my shock when I quickly had a glance at the time and realised how much was to go. We were barreling very fast through it. Not only did the lyrics just fall off a cliff, not that they were ever on the cliff, but the music just becomes more and more just almost stealing, almost ripping off things, just getting away with it a little bit.
I'd almost be happier if they ripped things off more overtly. It would be like, oh yeah, that's a nice melody, or that's like, that gives me something. Even if you didn't come up with this, it's at least enjoyable to listen to. Whereas we watched it less than an hour ago, and I've already forgotten almost every song.
So, and my last song note, is and I've got question marks. I don't know what number it came up at. I think there might have been 6 songs in between, but it was Miss You Most on Sunday, and
that's a recurrent motif. We haven't spoken enough about evil villain Camilla.
Oh yeah.
Camilla's so conniving in this. Camilla's just
right off the bat. I mean, I said it's much like our future PM.
Yeah.
I mean, it's spitting image almost, and with the Clinton as well, I was getting very... I was making up something different in my head very quickly. But she is awful. And I mean, obviously you need an antagonist. It's a theatre production and you need someone to boo for it. But it gets to panto levels.
I don't know enough about the royals, but the way I'd always heard the story represented, and granted, this is probably after 2 decades of Prince Charles PR, but everyone had always represented it as like, oh, Camilla was his first love, and it was just that he suffered as much as anyone because the royal family wouldn't allow him to be with her because she was divorced and da. But really, like, I mean, it was just a victim of circumstance, right person, wrong time, whatever. But this is very much, no, Camilla is evil, and she is out to destroy. Yeah.
And she's also behind everything as well.
Yeah, that's what I said to you. I couldn't see what would make this Razzie worthy, and I was like, if it takes a turn where they have Camilla orchestrating Diana's death, that would be the kind of mind-blowing, really questionable choice.
Because they definitely hint at the start, she has this little finger mentality of
that's it, she's little finger. Diana.
She plucked Diana out of the streets as the chosen one, and she put him to be with Charles. It's all Camilla's idea, and she was the chosen one all along.
We need to write an alternate version of this where Charles dies in a tunnel and Camilla makes a move on Harry, like, oh, you remind me of your father.
But like, because they're setting her up so blatantly evil. I mean, I'm hoping for that. She's behind everything. I'm hoping for the controversy. I'm wondering how far they're going to get away with things, because it's so stupid and insensitive. You know, like the concept alone. So like, how far can they take this without getting sued or put in a tunnel themselves?
Yeah.
You know, like,
for me, it's lacking that special ingredient with a Razzie winner. For me, should be painful.
Yeah.
Or it should lead you to ask. It should induce some sort of existential crisis of like, why did someone think this was a good idea?
Yeah.
Who came up with this? But this was just like, yeah, okay. I have written down, it seems like a 30 Rock sketch. It just goes all the way too long. I mean, like, it's a throwaway gag of like, hey, Jenna, remember when you did that Diana the musical?
Yeah, cut to Tina Fey on stage. I can see. I mean, even from the start, I felt like
you said SNL. Yeah,
I was expecting Hallelujah at the piano again with the Clinton, but like it looked like that, and the idea alone, it's just. So if you've got something that go balls to the walls a little bit, but that never gets touched on. Nothing too controversial. It's insensitive, but without being controversial, as in, you know, Charles isn't going to be getting it pulled from Netflix or anything.
No, that's maybe the most damning thing about it, is you can't really see anyone getting too annoyed by it. It's just a bit lukewarm and milquetoast and offensive.
Yeah. So my notes actually trail off very badly here, because, and it's not that I just gave up. Like, I was still relatively invested enough to watch it.
You were more invested than me. I was on my phone, like, looking it up on IMDb, and
you know, I was still trying to give it some, but the songs weren't even nothing. I can't remember a thing. There are too many, just that lazy talk, speak, sing that just infuriates me, which isn't what I want, and maybe it's what other people want. I know, it's not for me to say, but it gets so, and the funny bits just are out the way. I've got it down here, you know, William being born and funny little baby, and then 2 seconds later Harry's born, and there's nothing in between, and there's just, we speed through it very quickly.
That's the Make You Feel My Love song, where she's like, I will love you for 1,000 years, my ginger-headed son.
Yeah, and even there with the ginger hair, you know, I was expecting Charles to come in and be like,
could they not get like a Chucky head just sticking out?
Well, he doesn't look like me or something, you know? What's going on here?
Again, just going back to the Game of Thrones thing, we'll have like, oh, the seed is strong, not like young Griff. We'll have some, the prince who was promised.
So yeah, like after, in Act 2 alone, I've just got nothing really. Because that was a slog. That was an absolute slog. The fun had died. Any little humour I was deriving out of making my own little story in my head, any little thing I was looking for, had been gone. I'd seen all the cast performances at this point. They are just going to regurgitate different characters. And
Yeah, we'll probably talk about that more in the second half when we'll speak about the individual award winners for the 2021 Razzies, and we can speak more about performances in the film. But I just kind of lost a bit of interest. Like you said, it's almost there isn't a story.
No.
It's like boy meets girl, boy marries girl, boy divorces girl.
Well, it's not even that. It's boy meets girl. She doesn't want to get with him initially, and then regrets it. And it's
Yeah.
like, well, well, your fairy godmother told you this is going to be rough and stuff. Like.
And the thing that most disappointed me was it doesn't really tackle her death. I was like, okay, this is going to be the tearjerker. We're going to get sad Harry and William walking behind the funeral procession. We're going to get the country is emotionally devastated. We're going to get, here's what she meant, here's what she represented,
Well,
here's why
absolutely.
she's an icon.
And if
We're not going to get Candle in the Wind, but we're going to...
Yes, but we could have a knockoff or Candle in the Wind. Like, there we go, Dirty Diana, Candle in the Wind. This is how I make my Diana musical. But
we should delete this podcast. We should make this musical.
I was annoyed, and if you've got time to dedicate an AIDS song moment, then you should have time to dedicate something towards the end. And if you think, oh, that's too insensitive, maybe look at the whole thing then.
Exactly. It's an insensitive concept. So if you're not going to commit to that and fully go for the emotional manipulation of she died and how sad that was, then why are you doing this? Why are you making this?
And it's done so strangely as well. It's like news reporters mid-song start talking about there's been a car crash, there's been a disaster in a tunnel in France, and then she just slowly trails off her song and it fades into the void.
It's like they're trying to fit everything about the second half of her life into one song. So they're just like, and Lady Diana, landmines. And Lady Diana, you auctioned off your dresses after you got divorced, and then you went to France and died.
But that's because her post-Charles as well, like that second act, there is not much of her life to put in there. That's not an interesting story or narrative.
No, you're
Charitable events, meeting some folk that are dying, like selling dresses, selling your story, like that's not enough. That's why I was so surprised early on when they were firing through William and Harry. I thought Harry was going to be a different number if we're going to save the marriage and have another kid, or like there's going to be something in there that you're going to pull it out. It's going to be this drama piece or something. So when all this is done within 30 minutes, 40 minutes, I'm thinking, what's going to happen? This is going to be a long car crash. Like, this is going to be an hour-long death, and she's going to be struggling and she's going to be in the hospital. Like, this is going to be horrific. Or the aftermath as well. Maybe there's going to be something post her death or something.
What if they pull a Tarantino and like they don't, like someone stops the car? Like if they do the alternate history in Glorious Bastards, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah, I mean, either that's what you're saying with the commit though. Either you go something, or you stop early and just fuck it. She didn't die almost,
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, so I suppose we've kind of reached near the end of all the things we wanted to say. Final verdict. Do you think this is a deserved Razzie winner?
It's probably the worst film I've seen from 2021.
Okay.
But I don't want to call it a film or a movie.
Exactly.
So there's a big asterisk. It's one of the least enjoyable things I've watched in a long time, but would I have the same experience if I seen it on the stage? Yes, because that's what it was. It was just a recording of a stage performance. What about you?
Yeah, pretty much the same. It's bad, but my issue is basically that it's not a film, and so nominating it as a film feels like a bit of a cop-out.
Absolutely. As we go through episodes and we go into the past, there's like a lot of Razzie winners that are undeserved, clear as day, and I also have more experience from those older films that are much, much worse, that should have won. Even the ones that deservedly win probably have better competition for the award. And, we'll speak about, obviously, the trends and agendas that creators of the Razzies have to certain films and certain people. But here in 2021, I've seen a lot of good films.
Yeah.
I kind of went out my way to avoid bad films for a change. And we're also in this time now where everything's Disney, Marvel, and Star Wars. So when I don't see them, there's not much else on.
No.
So I don't get that opportunity to go see that. I know this is a Netflix film, but I wouldn't. This would never even popped up at all for me.
For anyone listening to this thinking, should I watch this? No, it's not. It's not good, but neither is it so bad that it's entertaining. You can probably get the highlights on YouTube, and that'll give you a good idea.
The funniest parts of it were made up in my head as I was watching it. Like, I never really had. I think there's one part or one song she talks about. She shouldn't have married Charles because he was a Scorpio. That made me laugh. That did make me laugh. But everything else was just me imagining something different. And by, again, the second act, I was bored and fidgety, and I was wanting it to end as quickly as possible.
Okay, so that leads on to my next question. Is there a way you could fix this? Or is there a small change you could make that would improve this immeasurably? We've kind of touched on a lot of things, but...
So in my opinion, no.
Okay.
Just because the core concept's so stupid, and there's no way around it. I think you could do something.
Yeah.
I don't ever think it could be good.
Yeah.
I can just say I could put Michael Jackson and Elton John songs in it. I could have it fun as well. It could be a much more positive portrayal of Diana's life, and it could have been a fun little 30-minute thing, but
that's a big one. If it was shorter, it would be better.
Having a biopic kind of thing as well into it just doesn't work, and you can't do it without being insensitive, and you can't do it without avoiding the end as well. You can't avoid the tragedy. What about you?
So I have two things. I think it steers very close to camp. There's things particularly in the AIDS number, when the guy has that catty ooh, those shoes don't go with that skirt, darling.
I would say they're what musical theatre isn't a little bit camp?
Exactly, that's inherent to the medium. So I would just
up the camp.
Exactly, I would embrace that. I'd be you'd either and get someone better to write the songs. I'd be Lady Gaga could probably write a good Diana the musical. I would outsource the songs to a better musician. Better songs, it's completely different, completely a much better, not film, but play.
But yeah.
And my second one, Prince Andrew. Just chuck him in, have him be an extra.
Well, that's it. If you embrace the Andrew and you embrace the Philip,
embrace the Andrew,
and just and play off it at least for a laugh, because its problem is it has no sense of humor. Apart from those little tiny moments, it's so stuffy.
Yeah,
and it's treating us like a royal affair. It's treating it like it is The Crown or Downton Abbey at times, and
it's an American who goes on holiday to Buckingham Palace, but it doesn't really have any relationship to the real thing. So, I suppose that concludes all we have to say on Diana the Musical.
I do have one last note.
Yeah.
I just want to say that it's the worst performance of the Queen I've ever seen.
Well, don't you worry, because we will be tackling that in the second half when we discuss the individual award winners.
Oh, yes.
Including Worst Supporting Actress. I'll give you 3 guesses who that might be. Welcome back to the second half of Watching Worst Films, the podcast in which we watch every Razzie award winner.
Hello.
So this is where we're going to break down all the individual awards for the ceremony from this year. Starting off with Worst Picture. So as you know, the winner was Diana the Musical, which we've kind of reached a consensus. It's not entirely deserved. Not because it isn't bad, but because it isn't really a film.
Yes.
And the
worst picture. It's not a picture.
The competition it beat out, Infinite. So this seems like one we might have to watch on a special or something. Do you know about Infinite?
I know of it, but I don't know.
You know who's in it?
Yes. Well, I know our boys in it.
It's Marky Mark.
Yes. Yeah. And I was a big mark for Marky Mark and any ventures from the Funky Bunch. Something I would watch just out of morbid curiosity, and it's probably more deserved winner. Have you seen it?
I haven't seen it. I've only seen one of these winners, unfortunately. There's other years where in fact, there was one year I think I watched every nominee.
Yeah, there's the further we go back, is that period from 85 to 95. I think I've seen every one at least once in my life. So that's gonna be a breeze to go through, and I'm looking forward to getting annoyed about that. But here, Infinite, just no idea, just.
It just seems like a generic Mark Wahlberg sci-fi fantasy. I hope it would be one of Mark Wahlberg's worst films, but I don't really
The
know.
bar's pretty low as well.
The next one, Karen,
Karen.
which is a 2012 American crime thriller written and directed by Coke Daniels. I don't recognize any of the cast. The title of the film is a reference to the American Karen stereotype.
Yes.
So in my head, that's going to be Karen John Wick.
Yeah, so I think I've seen a meme or two about this, but again, I have no idea about it.
Next up, we have Space Jam: A New Legacy. That is diabolical. If that had won Worst Picture, I wouldn't complain. I like to think I went in with relatively low expectations. I love the first Space Jam, as anyone who was a child when it came out does. And
have you watched the first one?
No, I rewatched it like
I rewatched
it like a week before A New Legacy. I was like, you know what?
Still
Hits the spot. It's subjectively terrible, but I enjoyed it. Really good fun. Space Jam: A New Legacy. Maybe it does that. Maybe I've just aged out of the demographic, and it does for me. It does for younger generations what the old one did for me. But I doubt it. It just seems very hello fellow kids.
Yeah.
Of like, it's trying to do Fortnite. It's very video gamey. It's trying to do Ready Player One synergy with other brands, but when those brands are The Matrix and A Clockwork Orange, no kid's gonna be like, oh yeah, like woohoo, Daffy Duck's doing a bit of the old ultra violence.
Well, that's kind of what I've taken, and again, I haven't seen it, but from what I've taken from the reaction of it is, any of the kids that liked it from it didn't like it for that references. And finally,
we have The Woman in the Window. I haven't seen it. Do you know anything about it?
Not a clue. Never even heard of this one.
So there's a really interesting story behind the book. It's one of those girl on the train kind of Gone Girl novel adaptations. But there's a really interesting story behind the book. The guy who wrote the book is basically a psychopath.
Okay.
I don't want to slander him, and also I might be misremembering things from an article I read several years ago.
Yeah.
But the story is basically that he's a compulsive liar, and he had all these pseudonyms made up. I think he pretended to be dying of a terminal illness. He's a really weird, manipulative guy who's far more interesting than the generic book he wrote. And so obviously that came out before the movie did, and so it was originally being billed as a kind of big awards contender, like Amy Adams, Gary Oldman, and then this story came out, and then the movie just kind of came and went without a trace.
It's a Netflix piece as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, again, that's kind of the joy with Netflix is even with Diana, they can sweep it under the rug and bury it under the recommendations. They don't have to distribute this anymore. They just keep it in on the archives.
Okay, so moving on. Worst director.
Yes.
The winner, Christopher Ashley for Diana the Musical.
Congratulations.
As we covered, he doesn't really... Oh no, hang on. He's an American Tony Award-winning stage director.
Yeah, a stage director. And, he's not the worst stage director.
No, yeah.
So already I'm going to say it's an undeserved award here.
I'd agree that there's a good energy on stage. Things move around. Like we said, the set piece with the orchestral pop song... Everything looked pretty good. I've seen some musicals where they're either static or they're chaotic. This was fine. I don't think that's deserved. Another of my nemesis, Stephen Chbosky. Might be mispronouncing that. Do you know that guy?
Nope.
He is the writer of Perks of Being a Wallflower.
Oh, okay.
I read that book probably too old. I think I was a student, so I was maybe 19, 20. And I was like, this is the most self-indulgent crap. And so I really took against it. And then he directed The Perks of Being the Wallflower movie. And he's kind of gone on to become a film director.
All right.
And so he directed Dear Evan Hansen. I'd probably rather him than Ashley. Because Dear Evan Hansen, it's bad in a cinematic way.
Absolutely. No, it's what was meant to be, in my opinion, was going to be and I've not seen it, but just based on reaction, it was going to be the front runner for the Razzies. I thought it was going to sweep it.
Yeah.
And it's just clicked now that it wasn't even nominated for Worst Picture.
No, yeah, you're right.
So, in Dear Evan Hansen, it's worse than Space Jam, right?
Oh, yeah. Space Jam made me laugh, and there are little bits of Space Jam
if it makes you laugh, okay. If it succeeds in a few things, it can't be here.
Dear Evan Hansen is just Dear Evan Hansen is an utter failure of direction because there's just it just fundamentally doesn't work. And the fact that it's an adaptation of a musical which, from what I've heard, does work, suggests that that's a failure of direction, because he comes off as like a really creepy, like emotional cuckoo. There's loads of things in Dear Evan Hansen that are just, it's like the origin story of a psychopath. If you commit to like, here's a story of a terrible human being who preys on a bereaved family, like Dear Evan Hansen could be a really good sort of like dark thriller, like My Friend Dahmer. It could be one of those, but it's not. It's trying to be like a, hey, this is inspiring. We all have mental health, don't we? So that's my personal winner.
So that's a surprise that it didn't sweep or get nominated as much as I kind of thought. So next up we got quotations, Coke Daniels, who directed Karen, but again,
we have our non-binary icon here, Coke Daniels. He, her, they, them. They're not blue on Wikipedia, so I don't know anything about Coke Daniels. But the concept of Karen seems kind of fun, so I'm disqualifying them on the basis of that alone. We might watch Karen in the future. Maybe we need to do a special on Karen.
You can pick that if you want.
Then we have Rennie Harlin for The Misfits, not the band or the TV show.
Yes, I only know this because of former James Bond Pierce Brosnan and Rennie Harlin's name's popping up. But yes, no Glenn Danzig, so no interest for me.
Then we have Joe Wright, The Woman in the Window. Joe Wright's another one, like the Razzies. I know the Razzies, and this is what we were saying earlier, the Razzies are at their best when they're trying to knock people down a few pegs. But Joe Wright, director of Atonement and Cyrano, I feel like Joe Wright's a competent enough director that maybe The Woman in the Window is disastrously bad, but who knows. Okay, we're getting into the juicy stuff here. Worst actor.
Yes.
Winner, LeBron James, Space Jam: A New Legacy, as himself. Yeah, don't go any further. He's awful. He's so bad.
So, I mean, what are you going to rate, how do you think of Michael Jordan's performance in the original? Where's that on the scale for you?
Michael Jordan's like 7 out of 10.
Yeah.
LeBron James is 1.
Okay. That's say no more then.
He's a cartoon for half of it, and like I almost wonder, like there are times in Space Jam where I'm like, they're having to cut around the fact that LeBron James just has no capacity for acting. He's just utterly unconvincing. There's a scene where he's playing basketball with his kids in the opening, and it just, like, watching the editing, I was like, seriously, this is the best take they got of him. And then when he's a cartoon, he's kind of okay because he can read the lines, but no, LeBron James, one of the worst performances I've seen in a long time. Utterly deserved.
It's a Simpsons, Mr. Burns. We did 1,000 takes and that was the best one.
Exactly. Then we have Scott Eastwood in Dangerous. What do you think about Scott Eastwood?
I haven't seen enough of him.
Okay.
If I'm being honest, so I'm gonna hold off an opinion either way. I'd like to see more though. What about you?
Yeah, when I've seen him, he's been kind of fine. If we're speaking about like the nepotist, like the Max Landises of the acting world, I don't know who you would put up at the top. Colin Hanks is pretty good.
Colin Hanks.
Wyatt Russell's pretty good.
Yeah.
But I don't know people who are at the bottom. I'm trying to think. Scott Eastwood's kind of in the middle, where obviously he's nowhere near as good as his dad.
No, but like he's like a John and David Carradine kind of thing.
I don't know. He's not a Harley Quinn Smith. Let's put it that way. It's not like you only have a career because of your parent. He's like decent enough. I think he's okay.
The one thing I've got about him is years and years and years ago, I think this is in the early mid-2000s, early 2010s, I signed a petition for him to be the man with no name that was circulating around for a while. I think this was before he broke through in anything, and just because he was the spitting image of his dad at his peak. And I was like, and his dad, especially in those early spaghettis, doesn't really need to act. He just needs to, squint and glare and shoot a gun. And they're my favorite films, so I need to say that as well. But but as of now, I'm just going to hold off my opinion on him and just no comment.
He's a big fan cast for Wolverine, isn't he? Yes. Which I think people are just like, a DH Clint Eastwood is a big fan cast for Wolverine.
Well, I mean, even linking it back to the Misfits, I wanted Glenn Danzig to be a Wolverine back in the original 2000s or whenever the original films came out.
Okay, we now have Ro This is where I turn to John Travolta, and I'm sorry if I do like an Adele Dazeem. We have Ro Hartranft from Diana the Musical, who was Prince Charles. I think that's an undeserved nomination.
I mean, this is going to be hard for me, especially when we get into the ones from Diana that we're talking about, because his performance was good in terms of musical delivery. I mean, he could sing, you know, he could emote enough for a theatre. He might not look anything like Charles, he might not have acted anything like Charles, but that's not his fault. That's whoever wrote and directed him. His performance was fine.
Yeah, I agree. Miscasting isn't enough for a Razzie nomination in my eyes, and he was fine. He was too conventionally attractive to be Prince Charles.
Oh, absolutely.
They couldn't have fitted him with some prosthetic ears at the very least. But he's kind of your standard solid musical theatre actor.
And again, interchangeable into other shows, but that does not mean that his performance was bad. Yeah. And that's what I am looking for in a Razzie. I'm wanting it to see something so phoned in or flat or just
well, my friend. Next on the list is Ben Platt from Dear Evan Hansen as the titular Evan Hansen. He's awful.
Yeah.
He'd be a worthy winner in any year where we didn't have LeBron James. Because LeBron James is just that classic sportsman turned actor. Whatever else you say about Ben Platt, he's at least an actor. He can convincingly portray a human being.
That's fair.
He's terrifying and like repellent to look at, but he's believable as another character.
Okay, yeah. No, that's the bare minimum, isn't it? That's all I'm asking for.
And then we round things off with our man Marky Mark from Infinite. He plays two characters, spoiler, Evan Macaulay and Heinrich Treadaway.
All right.
We might have to watch this. Two Marky Marks.
Two Mark Wahlbergs. Could have got Donnie a job, you know. Missed opportunity.
Okay, so moving on, we have Worst Actress. The winner, Gina de Waal. I hope I'm pronouncing
Gianna.
From Diana the Musical as Princess Diana. I'm going to go to the mattresses for her. She wasn't that bad.
No, she was the best part, in my opinion, of Diana.
Yeah.
Again, it's not her fault that she was made up to look like Clinton. But like vocally, this is also getting hard because actresses, you know, how much acting she actually did is very debatable. But she could still emote. She still, you know.
She fits with the ethos of the production. If she was doing anything out with the norm, if she was way more emotive or tried to do anything different with her performance, she'd have stuck out like a sore thumb and probably made the film more of a jarring experience.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if it was someone else in that role as well, this could have been a dreadful watch. Like
absolutely.
The highlight of the film for me was her performance.
Undeserved.
Absolutely.
Then we have Amy Adams, the woman in the window, as Dr. Anna Fox. Interesting. We'll touch on her because she's nominated in another category. Amy Adams has been. I used to really like Amy Adams, but she's been on a bad streak these past few years. Hillbilly Elegy, this Dear Evan Hansen. I think she's great, but I can see a world in which she's worthy of a nomination. Then we have Megan Fox, Midnight in the Switchgrass, Taryn Manning as the titular Karen in Karen. And then we have Ruby Rose in Vanquish. Ruby Rose, I haven't seen Vanquish. Ruby Rose is pretty bad, even in things that she's good in.
So, I'm not Amy Adams' biggest fan. It's been controversial in the past in her heyday when she was critically acclaimed. I think.
But now everything's coming up, Kyle. I got into the ground floor of Amy Adams is awful, and I'm reaping the benefits.
I've never been a fan, and I thought anything good was because of good directions and good directors pulling performances out of her, or better films constructed around her. But compared to Ruby Rose, Ruby Rose is one of the worst actresses I've ever seen.
It's one of those things like comparing Ben Platt to LeBron James. They might be a bad actor, but they fundamentally are an actor.
Yes, exactly.
Whereas Ruby Rose is a bit like a clothes horse model actor of like you're cast for your look and your vibe, your ability to. Like, she's in one of the John Wick films, and she doesn't really speak. She just gets her ass kicked by John Wick, doesn't she?
Very, very short. I mean, anything she's in is very sharp. Even in what was Orange is the New Black and things in TV, it's just, and then even when you're nominated alongside Megan Fox, who is known as just a model and not an actress, is capable of something more. Like
absolutely, Megan Fox is Meryl Streep compared to Ruby
Rose is one of the worst, and she can turn it around, but no, it's I think she's absolutely incapable. She's in the wrong business 100%. And then she got, was it shit can from Catwoman?
No, she left. She broke her back. There was some safety issues. She left because she left.
Well, I'd never seen any of them, and I had no intention to, so that's okay.
And on we go. It's probably I probably have the biggest issues with this category. We have, it's worst supporting actor, and we have Jared Leto, winner for House of Gucci, as a Paolo Gucci, who, he's bad, but he nails the role. You haven't seen House of Gucci, have you?
I haven't, no.
He's playing like an over the top stereotype, but like he makes the film watchable, and that's kind of what he needs to be. Like he's playing a ridiculous, like he's playing the fail son of the Gucci family, and so he plays him as an over the top, flamboyant, like balding failure.
Yeah.
And when you look at him, and he's saddled with lines like, "How can I think about this when my father could be in prison dropping the soap?" And what's the other one? "When you eat the chocolato, make sure that it is not a poo-poo. They look the same, but they taste very different." When you're saddled with material like that,
and you know what it is, and you know what you're doing, no one.
Yeah, it's a campy pantomime, and he, in my eyes, is in exactly the right register. Like, that movie's so much more fun because of him than it would be without him. So that's ill-deserved. I'm not going to come out as like, I'm a stan of the pedophile cult leader Jared Leto, but I think he's certainly given worse performances in House of Gucci.
Absolutely. I mean,
undeserved.
Yeah. Okay. Fair.
And then we have Ben Affleck in The Last Duel, another Ridley Scott film.
Yep.
He's pretty much doing the exact same thing as Jared Leto.
Yep.
It's a little bit of a more contemporaneous performance than you would expect in a period piece, but it kind of works. He's playing like a spoiled, like a touch count, and so I don't think Ben Affleck, I think, might have won awards for Last Duel. He doesn't deserve a Razzie.
No. And I meant to see Last Duel. Can't remember why we didn't see it, but we were meant to go see it. But it's sticking out like a sort of thumb. This is almost where I'm getting into the vendetta side of Razzies.
Exactly. They just see Ben Affleck, and
I don't think this isn't. There's no way he can be one of the worst supporting actors, and no, I disagree. And I'm not even a Ben Affleck stan. I'm not standing up for him. I'm not going to die on that hill. But
no, he's delivered plenty of Razzie-worthy performances, and another one of my personal vendettas is against Kevin Smith, and so anyone who can tolerate Kevin Smith, I'm obviously going to have the knives out for, but I think this is completely undeserved. We have Nick Cannon, The Misfits, as Ringo. Assuming not Ringo Starr, but who can really tell. Mel Gibson in Dangerous as Dr. Alderwood. And then we have Gareth Keegan. Is that the name of the guy from The Office? Gareth Keenan?
Keenan, isn't it?
Keenan, yeah.
You're more the UK Office side than I am.
Diana, the musical, as James Hewitt, the muscle-bound horse trainer. He doesn't deserve that either.
I mean, it's strange to see, and this is where they've just got this, we're going to put Diana in everything category, because James Hewitt's role in the film is so small.
He doesn't have his shirt on for half his screen time. I don't know if that's why they've nominated him, because he's kind of like that first scene where he's riding a horse. It's very cheesy.
Well, that's why they've added the comment.
True, yeah.
They've it's James Hewitt, the muscle-bound horse trainer.
The character's not really well developed. They have to sell like, he's the hunky like guy she's going to have an affair with.
And I actually thought, and as much as I had thought it was a reference or unintentional reference to the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yeah, it could be. Illusions.
Yeah, I did. I could pass it off. It's a perfect man that they've made. Yeah, I got it. And again though, his performance, he was fine. Is what it was. Like, it's
If you're Gareth Keegan, you're going to be so annoyed. You get a text from your agent like, hey, Gareth, like, bad news. It's like, what did you do to deserve this? Nothing?
No.
We can obviously point to, like, I don't know, things that Marky Mark's done, things that, like, LeBron James has done. You look at the character and you're like, that's not a human being. No one's ever delivered a line that way. But Gareth Keegan, he was fine. Who was not fine, on the other hand, worst supporting actress Judy Kay in Diana the Musical as both Queen Elizabeth II and Barbara Cartland. So I think we agree. She was the worst actress in the film.
She was rough, and a little bit of miscasting as well.
I agree.
Like, she doesn't look anything like the Queen. She might look like Barbara Cartland. I don't think Barbara Cartland looked like a fairy godmother though. But her performance, even compared when I'm defending everything, it's very pantomime. It was very surface. It's just, it wasn't. I can't really praise it in any way.
Yeah, I agree. No award-winning performance is created in a vacuum. No Razzie-worthy performance is created in a vacuum. Well, maybe, I don't know, something like Marlon Brando, maybe where you just go off and do something insane. But I think part of this fault lies with the director, who just was clearly like, okay, this is a queen with brown hair who dresses like Umbridge from Harry Potter, who speaks about watching Coronation Street on the telly.
She has what's the villain's name in Matilda?
Miss Trunchbull.
Yeah, that's the vibes that I got from her.
She's not regal. Like, you look at the Queen is like a caricature. She's very easy. Like, it's very easy to do the Queen, and there's nothing Queen-like about that woman. No. Barbara Cartland, she's a little bit better as that sort of romance novel fairy godmother character. But she's only in the thing like twice. Yeah. It's a conceit they don't really use.
It's pointless. It absolutely is, yeah.
Worthy winner. Yeah. Amy Adams, Dear Evan Hansen as Cynthia Murphy. That's pretty deserved. She's not very good in that. Sophie Cookson in Infinite, the Marky Mark film. Erin Davey from Diana the Musical as Camilla Parker Bowles. I think, once again, this is them just trying to nominate everyone from Diana.
Absolutely, because... yeah, she shouldn't have been nominated just on... I mean, her performance wasn't bad. The writing for Camilla and making her everything we moaned about, I get. But, like, you know, she sung well, she emoted well, and her choreography was fine. Everything was fine. Like, there's no. Like, no, I'm not going to die on the Camilla Hill, but...
I will.
Yeah, she's not getting in there.
We then have Taryn Manning, every last one of them. This is a new entry here.
Yeah, it is, finally.
An American action thriller film directed by Christian Sesma, Paul Sloan,
Michael Madsen,
Richard Dreyfuss. Okay. Oh, no comment.
No comment.
Worst screen combo.
Here we go.
This is when the Razzies
fall apart.
Yeah, because they just try and make up these in-jokes and they're not very funny.
They're not.
Winner, LeBron James and any Warner cartoon character or Time Warner product he dribbles on Space Jam: A New Legacy. Yeah, it's not particularly funny, but I'd agree. LeBron James and anything about him is worthy of... anyone who gets paired up with LeBron gets dragged down by LeBron in Space Jam. Any klutzy cast member and lamely lyricized or choreographed musical number. So Diana the Musical.
This annoys me already, because the combo is the lyrics and it's music.
Yeah.
There wasn't klutzy cast members.
Exactly.
That's flat out wrong.
Yeah.
The film, whatever you want to call it, the performance was terrible because of the creation of it.
Yeah.
The cast were not the problem.
It was a standard 7 out of 10, 5 out of 10, whatever. Unremarkable either way.
There weren't klutzy. There was no mistakes. There was no like...
It's not like stormtroopers bumping their heads off things.
Nothing.
Lamely lyricized, yes.
Yes, yeah.
But
that's what we moaned about.
But if this was a worst screen combo, how are you going to know the lyrics if someone isn't singing them?
Exactly.
They're just wanting to stick the knife in with these petty little insults.
Yeah, and that's, agreed 100%.
Jared Leto and either his 17-pound latex face, his geeky clothes, or his ridiculous accent.
So yeah, you covered that.
Okay, yeah.
You said that was the best part of it.
The Mario accent, maybe, but in a film in which Lady Gaga and Al Pacino, people who are of Italian descent, are doing equally bad Italian accents. Jeremy Irons attempts an Italian accent before giving up halfway through a sentence.
Gaga's?
Yeah, she's not good.
But even before we carry on here, this is just... just annoys me, to be honest. Like, a worst screen combo shouldn't be these inside jokes. It should be where's the bad chemistry? Where's that?
Exactly, yeah. Like, two human beings, maybe not like, here's someone we don't like and something bad we want to say about them. Yeah, so like his geeky clothes in particular, he's meant to be the tacky Gucci with terrible taste. Anyway, Ben Platt and any other character who acts like Platt singing 24/7 is normal. Okay, Dear Evan Hansen's kind of egregious in that regard, but also Razzies, have you seen a musical? Like, you have to suspend your disbelief. People are going to sing. It's going to be unnatural.
And why is that not the same complaint for Diana the musical? Like, what's going on, you know? Like, and this is kind of what we're going to get into deeper with. The rules of the Razzies are so just interchangeable and flippant. It's just annoying. Carry on.
Then we have Tom and Jerry, aka Itchy and Scratchy from Tom and Jerry. Moving on. Worst prequel, remake, ripoff, or sequel? This almost feels like shooting ducks in a barrel when everything is a prequel, remake, ripoff, or sequel. Space Jam: A New Legacy, worthy winner. Karen.
Inadvertent remake of Cruella.
Oh, okay. This just makes me want to watch Karen even more. It's the Karen origin story.
Oh, wait till the Karen special, folks.
No, we really do need to watch that, because I'm like, is this really going to be ripping off Cruella? Is she going to be a fashion designer? Or are they just saying that sort of like Joker storyline of person falls from grace? Mm-hmm. Are they just saying...
Yeah, well, that's it. They're clutching at straws, isn't it?
They're going to say The Godfather is an inadvertent remake of Cruella. Oh, Michael starts out well, and then Tom and Jerry, yeah. Twist, rap remake of Oliver Twist. I'm very glad I didn't see that. The Woman in the Window, ripoff of Rear Window. Yeah, okay. At least they've kind of shown they're working a little bit more here. Mm-hmm. Worst screenplay, Diana the Musical. I'd say it's it's all right. Of all the things that's going to win there, that's probably deserved. The lyrics aren't good.
Yeah, but that
doesn't have structure.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like the music and lyrics, but that's not what the category is. You know, it's worst screenplay, and although it's terrible, I guess I don't want to count it almost still. Like, I think it should be in its own separate thing. Worst soundtrack, worst music. Yeah, worst music. But no, I'm not going to count that.
Then we have Karen, written by Coke Daniels themselves.
So-called Coke.
Which, again, I've written myself into the corner of I'm a Coke Daniels stan. So we're going to watch this and I'll hate it and it's going to break me. But for right now, the fact that Coke Daniels isn't blue on Wikipedia, I think they're a plucky up-and-comer. I'm excited to see what Coke does in the future. They don't deserve this.
Why do you think he got the nickname Coke? Or she got the nickname Coke? Like,
Doing a lot of Coke.
I'm excited for that.
Pepsi Daniels. Then we have The Misfits, screenplay by Robert Henney and Kurt Wimmer.
Screen story by Henney.
Yeah. Then we have Twist, with a whole bunch of writers.
Which I only want to laugh at is from an original idea from David Keith Lynch, and Simon Thomas. Not the writer of Oliver Twist.
I was going to say, yeah, exactly. It's
idea.
Not really an original idea of Dickens. That's it.
I'm going to take the credit here.
David T. Lynch as well. That's David Lynch. I don't want this on my record. Give me a middle name. Then The Woman in the Window, screenplay by Tracy Letts, who Tracy Letts, as we know, award-winning playwright, esteemed writer. AJ Finn is the psychopath. So yeah,
it looks. I get it already.
Yeah.
Didn't say no more.
Okay, and then we have the controversy of this year. The Razzies makes up their little like one-off things, which, as we've alluded to, most of the time are kind of like sad in-jokes. And so something which they came under a huge amount of criticism for this year was their one-off category. Worst performance by Bruce Willis in a 2021 movie, where they nominated him for, let's see, how many is this? 8 films?
And I've not seen a single one of these.
No, I don't think. Worst performance, he probably has a collective, like, 10 minutes of screen time.
Yeah, I've seen, videos, and I know the controversy about them. I know the earpieces and reading lines and being fed to them and things, blah, 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 doubles.
Precisely.
But even without the knowledge of that, I'm not as much of and I'm a glutton for punishment. I love I've seen too many Steven Seagal films. I've seen too many Van Damme films. I've seen bottom of the barrel. But Bruce Willis, 8 movies in a year. I'm not going to see them.
Yeah, well, I spoke to you about it at the time when word on the street, i.e. what I read on social media, was when this came out, it already seemed commonly known that Bruce Willis had health difficulties and that he was doing this to basically cash in and provide for his family while he still could. Mm-hmm. So it was commonly known to like any idiot on social media. So you'd think the people from the Razzies would have been a little bit more sensitive of, okay, yeah. Because people were reporting things from the set of these movies that he just wasn't well.
And that it was obvious it wasn't just, oh, and the IRS money and I need to make it.
Yeah, exactly. Films. There were things about him just being in isolation, trailer, difficulty getting to set. He was like a wind-up toy of like he turned up and did his things through the earpiece. And so, yeah, that's where the Razzies veers over into cruelty of it just seems like they have vendettas against certain people and they seem kind of insensitive.
To be honest, the people that should be targeted were the people putting them in these movies, and
yeah, exactly.
It's not.
So that award was given for Cosmic Sin and then was later rescinded when the Bruce's health issues came out. They stuck to their guns initially, and I think they tweeted like, "We sympathise with Bruce," and didn't rescind the award, and then they were quite rightly heavily criticised, and then they took it back. But yeah, that's the.
And so the only thought I have on this is I would like to know how Cosmic Sin was picked. Like, I'd like to see what was his reasons for, you know, like
Mr. Razzie.
Yeah, Mr. Razzie, who you know, we could scroll up and see his name. Like, we're going to talk about him every week, but right now...
Well, there is a Razzie Academy. That'll be a special. We'll need to speak about it later on. You can pay money and join the Razzie Academy.
But this feels like a singular
attack,
especially by double downing on it as well. That doesn't feel like they're...
Exactly. You're right. It's very... When you look at the Razzies, you get the sense that it's one particular person's prejudices and personal likes and dislikes.
Yes.
So I'm sure we'll uncover more of that as we go on. And then the final category, how do you feel about this, the Razzie Redeemer Award?
I'm not sure. I understand it. I think it's quite nice to have a little bit more of a positive one, but it's very unnecessary, and it defeats the purpose of the Razzies as well.
I kind of agree. I like the positivity, and I like when people like Adam Sandler do like an Uncut Gems, and it just completely changes your opinion of everything else they've done. But if for the Razzies to be handing that out, it feels a little bit weird. And then it also, you just get the Razzie gatekeeping of it's just like, oh, who personally we've decided to let back in the club.
Yeah, it's something you can... Yeah, I don't think you need to acknowledge.
Yeah, the public can decide for themselves who have redeemed themselves. So the final award here goes to Will Smith for King Richard. Which the Razzies are always before the Oscars. Mm-hmm. So I'd love it if they gave it to him after the slap. Was what did it.
Take it. Can we get our Razzie Redeemer Award back? Yeah.
Razzie Redeemer Award. We retracted this. We're taking away Bruce's Razzie for Cosmic Sin, and we're also taking away Will Smith's redemption for King Richard.
So is that? I mean, it's a very vague title. But is that a redeemer for you for Will Smith?
No, Will Smith's a weird one in that I don't even know if Will Smith deserves to be in contention for that. Of he's bad, he's in Bright, he's in Suicide Squad. He's not, he doesn't take many risks, but Will Smith does what he does very well, I would say.
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen many things. Oh, he's kind of bad in Gemini Man. But Will Smith, I think, is more boring than maybe bad.
And I think I'm going a bit further back. You know, before Pursuit of Happiness, that was his Razzie Redeemer probably. To make up for the Wild Wild Wests and the Men in Black 2s and 3s and etc. Even the Ali as well. You know, the Muhammad Ali one. I can't put him in there in my opinion. He's not.
I agree. He's maybe not the best actor, but he's one of those Tom Cruise type figures of he's just an incredibly charismatic movie star. Yeah, it's very easy to make fun of him for his personal life, but in terms of his performances, I don't think he's ever done any stinkers exactly.
No.
Very similarly, Jamie Dornan, not my favourite actor.
Not at all.
They've just put him here on the basis of 50 Shades, I think.
I think so. 100%. That's all I was thinking for was.
Yeah.
And it's a very slim nomination as well this year for this Redeemer Award.
I think there's only ever 3. I think it's always quite.
Is it?
I think it's always quite limited. Yeah. So Belfast, I don't think there's a big enough gulf between Belfast and the rest of his work. Like, yeah, 50 Shades of Grey isn't great, but it's not really a film that's set up for actors to succeed. So when you're pointing at like Robert Pattinson in Twilight or Jamie Dornan in 50 Shades of Grey, it seems weird to limit an actor's potential based off something like that.
Yes,
So-
I agree with that.
Then we come on to Nicolas Cage for Pig. Now, Nicolas Cage is a weird one because I know there's that Community episode that sort of argues, is Nicolas Cage a good actor or is he a bad actor?
Yes.
Nicolas Cage for me is probably the closest. Nicolas Cage has delivered the most Razzie-worthy performances.
Yes.
Or he has the most questionable choices of
But
anyone.
even right then, if to interject a little bit though, I'm not the biggest Cage fan, and I'll come on to this with Pig, but Cage has been in good films and done terrible performances as well.
Yeah.
Like really bad performances, and it can work in certain types and certain things, but I'm a very mixed bag, but I lean much more on that being anti-Cage. However, on that note, he is phenomenal in Pig.
Yeah.
And Pig's a good film in itself. It's a great film, but like his performance is absolutely stupendous, and it was a redeemer for me. Something that I think you mentioned years ago, that how much I would love Mandy and stuff, because it's a film up my alley. It's a Kyle film that I would write. And although I liked it, I think I would have liked it more without Cage. I'd have preferred it with someone else in that role. I think
Steven Seagal.
Mark Wahlberg. I think there could have been. I don't know. He distracted me from the film, if I'm being honest. He didn't distract me at all in Pig.
Yeah. Very similarly, I think I'm a huge fan of Pig. It was my favourite film of last year. I think it annoys me almost a little bit to see Pig on a film where it's not the winner. Whether that's maybe about, because you can't place King Richard above Pig, and you can't place like Will Smith's performance in that above Nicolas Cage.
Yes.
Is it just the gulf between where Will Smith was to where he is? I don't know. But I suppose what I'm taking issue with is the concept of the Razzie Redeemer, because to me, Nicolas Cage didn't need to be redeemed. The Redeemer Award, for me, I kind of agreed when they didn't even give it Sandman for Uncut Gems, I don't think. It was Eddie Murphy, wasn't it? And those people, it's when they've spent years in the wasteland and you've written them off as like, Adam Sandler will never make a non-Netflix Happy Madison production. Eddie Murphy's just going to make movies about like...
That's a bit, that's neglecting that, Sandler has done good performances before, like...
Yeah, but what
For me, the Redeemer Award is someone that is absolutely just... It's Ruby Rose churning out something incredible.
Exactly, it's unexpected. That's kind of what I was...
That's where I'm going. I know the Sandman was capable of something because I've seen him be capable of something.
Exactly, that's kind of what I was getting at. When every other film for Nicolas Cage, in my eyes, is a good performance, or at the very least, you can agree with what he said, is that even when he's cashing in, he never phones it in.
100%.
Nicolas Cage hasn't had a big enough bad streak that he's worthy of this. The Razzie Redeemer either needs to be someone terrible delivers a performance far above their level, or someone who you have written off as terrible because they've been in such bad things.
That, yeah. I just don't think, and even if you're going on the Eddie Murphys, who might not have had those performances before, the Will Smiths, they're charismatic.
Yeah.
If they can make you laugh, then there's something in it. It's the ones that can't make me feel anything.
Yeah, exactly.
That's where
if like Rob Schneider.
Yes.
If Rob Schneider did Pig, I would be like, yeah, give him the Razzie Redeemer Award. This has changed what I know about Rob
100%.
Schneider.
He's never made me laugh. He's never made me do anything other than want to turn the screen off. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so that concludes our first episode and the year of 2021.
Yeah.
Join us next time when we will be covering 1993.
Yeah, diving into the past.
And the film Indecent Proposal. So in the meantime, you can send us any questions you have at watchingworstfilms@gmail.com, and we will have social media profiles to update next time.
Yeah, thank you very much for listening, guys.
Goodbye.